Our text is from the gospel reading. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She hath done a beautiful thing to me." I tell the kids in class, read the Bible with a pencil in your hand. Make a mark at the things that sadden Jesus or anger Jesus. You'll be surprised. It's not the stuff that the bedroom police of the church and the watchdogs of orthodoxy always get excited about. And make a mark in the margin of the things that gladdened his heart, that made him say, "This is it, what it's all about, a signal fire of my Father's kingdom in this world." And this is one of them. Jesus never forgot it. Said that the world would never forget it as long as it stands, and it never has. The text carries us away to the village of Bethany, a suburb of Jerusalem, some 2 miles beyond the high walls of the city. In the hectic life of Jesus, Bethany was always a harbor in the storm. Here lived people who opened their hearts and opened their homes to him. Here, the lamp of welcome was always in the window whenever Jesus and his friends were in the neighborhood. In the cool of the evening, we turn in at the door of a house where a dinner party is in progress, and the candlelight in the room plays upon a happy scene. Many of the faces around the festive tables are familiar to you. Jesus is there in the place of honor, reclining on a couch, as their custom was, and the host was sitting next to him, a man whom they nicknamed Simon the Leper, for obvious reasons. Lazarus was there, hale and hearty, whose funeral they had all attended a week earlier. Martha was there, her busy self as usual, working out in the kitchen, waiting on the tables. And Jesus' friends were there, Peter, James, and John, and the others who are probably just names to you, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, and the rest. Were they aware that this was really their last supper together? They must have sensed that things were rapidly building to a climax. Jesus was a marked man. The disciples did not want to get this close to Jerusalem in the first place. For all they knew, the house was under surveillance at that very moment. One of them was sure of it, the woman Mary. Midway through the meal, she entered the room with an alabaster vase of spikenard, aromatic perfume, very rare, coming as it does from Tibet. You still can't get there but by helicopter, and very precious. A family heirloom, perhaps, her security against a rainy day, or something for a once-in-a-lifetime occasion. She snapped the tapered neck of the flask and began to pour it upon Jesus' head. But before the cruse was completely empty, she knelt down and poured out the rest of it on his feet. Then, loosing the bands of her hair, she dried his feet with her flowing tresses as the room was filled with a fragrant aroma. By our Western standards, very reserved, always self-conscious. That must have been a very, very awkward moment. What if somebody did that to you in a restaurant? Or even at a family gathering? Why, I would be embarrassed to have to do. Now stop that. Not here. Anybody but Jesus. Isn't it true It's often harder to receive a gift than it is to give one. But the greatest giver is also the most gracious receiver. He looks past the blundering efforts to honor him and looks at the heart behind it. That day, out there in the wilderness, this little boy, when the multitudes are hungry and far from home, this little kid offers them a bag lunch of bread and fish. Logical minds said, what good is this among so many? Jesus says, well, thank you, son. Let's see what we can do with this, you and I together. Jesus singles out to praise the widow who threw 2 small mites into the treasury box, which in other eyes were a meager trifle. And so Jesus honors these pitiful deeds of mercy of ours as done for him and he promises that he will reward you openly and heartily, take you by the hand and say, Father, I want to introduce to you a good friend of mine here. She helped me a great deal in that lousy old world of ours. But even in that Eastern culture, where people are very demonstrative of their feelings, one was outraged by this reckless behavior. The man Judas pulls the cork out of a bottle of poison and lets the noxious fumes fill the air of that room. To what purpose is this waste? Yes. Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and the money given to the poor? What a shame! What a waste! With all those hungry, homeless people out there who lack the very necessities of daily life. Judas had a point. They all agreed with him and nodded their heads in approval. You see, poverty was very grim and very stark in Palestine of those days. When you read the Gospels, you're usually looking at Jesus, and you should, but you were to let your eye wander for a minute to the background in those scenes. What's going on over in the edges of the picture? You would see how miserable life was in that filthy third world country. Haven't you ever noticed the beggars on every corner? The unemployed standing all the day idle in the marketplace. How quickly a crowd can gather. And made up of a vast percentage of the sick and the diseased and the crippled and the demonic, symptom of the overcrowded and the unsanitary conditions in which they live. And so, there's something to it. 300 pence could have fed a poor family for a year. 300 individual poor for one day. Instead, this fool woman throws it all away in one reckless gesture, faulting her for what she did. And by the way, faulting Jesus, who accepted her gift. Jesus says, are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing? We don't even get it. Why would anybody want 2 sparrows? For an evening meal. That's what? Mama, can I have a drumstick? Yeah. Here's a roasted sparrow drumstick. And be sure you share it with your brother. Poor love. I've met a lot of people over the years who have the same case against church. And they're good people. They're active in social and welfare reform, political and economic equity. And if they don't say it, they always imply it, that religion distracts you from these real problems. Worship is a waste. Francis of Assisi, Father Damien, who went to the Polynesian island of lepers, they might have been chairman of the board, speaker of the house. Mother Teresa could have had her own television show right next to Oprah, instead of wiping the brows of those street people who were going to die anyway. Our fathers, who put this church up on this building. Where's the financial profit, the dividends, the compound interest? What a shame. What a waste. So said Judas. And so say his disciples of Judas to the present day. Jesus says, would you leave her alone? Throwing a protective arm around her because she was really hurt by that vicious criticism. She has done a beautiful thing to me. Reckless, extravagant, yes, nothing cautious, calculating, measuring out the perfume with a teaspoon. Just enough to cover the occasion. There are good people in this world, reasonable, practical, and absolutely predictable. They will do what is required of them. That much and not anything more. They view all of life as a labor contract. Their spouse, their marriage, their family. Like the guy who buys his wife a vacuum cleaner for her birthday. A snowblower for Christmas. Oh, that's practical. That's dutiful. But one thing it ain't is beautiful. That honor goes to those who offer themselves above and beyond the call of duty. That's what lifts life up from the dutiful into the beautiful. And we learn from Jesus how to do it. The one who broke open the bottle of his own life and poured it out entirely, holding nothing back. His Spirit has generated more generosity in this world. All your schools, your hospitals, your orphans were started by Christian people. You can't even stop them. If we were to start all over again from scratch, and we had a card table for an altar, and a soup dish for a baptismal font, and a drinking glass for communion, it wouldn't be long before some woman would say to her husband, "Dearie, you got all those nice tools out there in the garage. Can't you build a decent altar?" And he would. And somebody would be bringing crystal bowls and glasses. And the next thing you know, someone shows up with a guitar. And then a concertina. And we'd keep working at it till we wound up with the Queen of Instruments up there and a silver chalice. Because if you're going to give it to God, it's got to be beautiful. It's got to be the best you got. And that's always true. The poor you have with you always, and you can be good to them anytime you want to, but you don't always have need. Jesus really didn't need a lecture on the poor. He was the poor. He spent his life among the poor. When he says, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has not where to lay his head, he wasn't being cute. That was fact. And he doesn't mean that it's your job to make poverty a fixation in this world and your business to see that the poor stay poor. He's saying that there's no end of people out there that you can help anytime you want. A shoulder for the wounded to lean on, strength for those who are weak, an anchor for the storm-tossed, a mouthpiece for people who cannot speak up for themselves. But me, you don't always have. Isn't that true? Looking back in your life, how many times haven't you wanted to kick yourself? Because a door of opportunity opened. You had a chance to seize the moment to do something beautiful for God. But once that moment's gone, hey, it's gone forever. Isn't it? She has done what she could. Why would you even mention it? Well, doing what you can do is usually the last thing that we do. It's so unglamorous and it's always more romantic to dream about doing the stuff I can't do. If only I won the lottery, boy, I'd do great things and stuff. Limping along from paycheck to check. If only I wrote a best-selling book, a movie screenplay, instead of writing the letter that you can write. But hold on. It's better than that. Jesus said, she came beforehand to anoint me for my burial. What? She saw the shadow of the cross falling across that little dinner party. In 2 days, when the hour struck, the 12 disciples would be caught off guard and scattered like leaves before the wind. And this woman knew that when it happened, it would be too late then for a proper burial. No place then for a woman to pay her respect. Mary, out of all of them, is the one woman who believed what he said. And he said it many times. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. This was Mary's way of saying thank you to the one to whom she owed her life. And it was now or never. And she was right. Amen.